Hello again, nerds. We have a lot going on this week. In comic books, we have Batman, Ninja Turtles, Penny Dreadful, Tank Girl. In television, we have Supernatural, Game of Thrones. In books, we have stuff from Patrick Rothfuss, also Game of Thrones. In movies, we have Nightwing, Star Wars. In video games, we've got Mortal Kombat. So much stuff going on, no time to waste. Hit that music.
Generally nerdy.
First things first, we've got the news about the channel. Then we'll get to the news about the news. News about the channel. Salt Lake Comic-Con is this week. I will be heading out Wednesday afternoon to get to my hotel room and be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for Thursday morning. Everything gets rolling Thursday morning. Salt Lake Comic-Con's a little different because it's in Utah. Stereotypes are what they are, and these ones apply in a lot of ways. Nobody does anything on Sundays in Utah. I know that's a crazy overgeneralization, but that's just kind of the way that state runs. So nothing happens on Sundays. Like Warp Tour is always in Utah on Saturday and then comes to Colorado on Sunday, and Comic-Con in Utah is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, instead of traditionally 3-day cons go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Usually means there's a lot of kids who skip school to go to Comic-Con. Stay in school, kids. So yeah, that's happening. They posted their schedule shortly after filming last week, so I have my plans set. I have at least one photo shoot set up. If you guys are looking for photo shoot, you want to take some pictures of your cosplay, some professional pictures, definitely hit me up. I'm on Facebook /Generally Nerdy. I'm on or Generally Nerdy Photo. I'm on Instagram, Generally Nerdy. I'm on Twitter, generally_nerdy. I am all over the place, but most importantly, generallynerdy.net and Patreon /generallynerdy. Go support me over on the Patreon. That being said, no other real updates to get to right now, so we're just going to move right into comic books. Okay, so let's do the Titan Comics stuff before we get into the Batman stuff, because that's kind of the two things we've got to talk about in comic books this week. Titan Comics, for those of you that don't know, have picked up Penny Dreadful. They're on issue number 7. I just learned about this from Instagram 2 days ago, so I'm sorry I'm a little late to announce it, but if you really dug that Showtime show, Penny Dreadful, then definitely check out the comic books. There's also a prequel comic that leads into the show. So comic books led into the show happened, and then 6 months after the events of the show is where the second comic series picks up. So far, again, I was just made aware of this 2 days ago, so I haven't yet to read them. But if the prequels were any good, then I'm sure the continuation is just as good. But yeah, definitely check it out. Penny Dreadful was a pretty great show if you're into horror and the monsters, like the Universal kind of monsters. Not the same one that Tom Cruise was a part of. That's a whole different Universal monster world. This is a different take on those classic monsters. Frankenstein and his monster, because the monster's not called Frankenstein, the doctor's called Frankenstein. So Frankenstein and his monster, Dracula, werewolf, all of these things that we've known forever, since Mary Shelley forever ago. It's a really, really great, interesting, unique take on all of those monsters. So watch the show if you can, find it on DVD, hit it up on Netflix, whatever streaming service you use that carries it, check it out, read the comics. Moving into Tank Girl. In the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I believe it started in about 88, 89, there was this really interesting comic called Tank Girl. I forget who originally published it, but it was super edgy, like risque, and definitely not one of those comic books for kids, because a lot of people think comic books are only for children, and that's not the case. But Tank Girl was a thing. She kicked ass. She was pretty awesome. She definitely kicked ass and chewed bubblegum. So I feel like maybe that was a thing that they stole from her for the Army of Darkness, Evil Dead shows. I don't know. And then Duke Nukem definitely stole it from Army of Darkness. So whatever. But yeah, Tank Girl was a thing back then. Lost publication. Whatever. It went down, and now Titan Comics, who also did who are doing the Penny Dreadful book, are doing a new revival for Tank Girl. So, in charge of this new reboot for Tank Girl is just some regular ass art. No, I'm joking. The writer is Alan Martin, who actually created Tank Girl back in the day, and then the artist is Brett Parson, who was also an artist on a few of the runs. I don't know that he did all of them, but he did a few of them, like 3 or 4, back when Tank Girl was in her heyday. So, original crew, new publication house, worth a read, definitely. I'm really interested with the social political landscape that we're in these days. I'm really interested to see where he can take Tank Girl. And then that's that. We're going to talk about some Batman real quick. There is so much Batman this week. I love Batman. It's just a little overwhelming sometimes. All right, so first thing, we have a continuation for anyone who was under a rock last year, or anyone who doesn't like Ninja Turtles or doesn't necessarily like Batman. There is a book. There's a series. It's a short. I think there was like 10 issues of this story arc where the Ninja Turtles and Batman crossed, and it was really cool. I feel like a couple of those issues were just filler, but on the whole, the story was really solid and really interesting, and very, very well drawn. I was a big fan of the artwork, especially the cover art. That book is getting a second. They're continuing that story. I don't know how they're going to continue that story, but it's a plan and it's a thing that's going to happen. So the writer for this badass crossover is James Tynion the Fourth. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing him. James Tynion. He writes Detective Comics, so he's familiar with writing Batman. So I mean, he's got plenty of experience in this realm. He did great with the first one. He's going to continue to do great for the second one, I am certain. So Tynion's doing the writing, and then the artist is also returned, is Freddie Williams II. A lot of continuations in these names, as well as the book. He, aside from Ninja Turtles and Batman, has done like He-Man and things like that. So crossing over the creative team as well, because Tynion's from DC and IDW is where Freddie comes from. So we've got a lot of crossover here. They are both returning from the original to do this continuation, and that is only good. So I really hope this one's just as good as the last one. I'm going to read it either way. I will let you guys know as soon as I have read it. I couldn't find a release date for this, so I can't tell you when to get ready for it. I would imagine it's going to be sometime in November, since it's in previews now. Or it's about to be in previews, or just... can't remember. Got announced, at least. But it's going to be great. I have no doubt about that. And then more Batman news. Breathe. So, Dark Knight's Metal is the current big event in DC. It's a Batman event. It involves the entire DC universe, because Batman goes missing, and he's going through like all these different dimensions and blah, blah, blah. So, Batman goes missing, and in issue number 2, we meet... let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other Batman. Only this is dealing with, there's some really metaphysical and like crazy scientific stuff that they were into when they were writing this. And this deals with the dark multiverse. So if we get 7 different Batmen, Bat Peoples, whatever, from the dark multiverse, I can't imagine they're gonna be good guys, especially considering one of them has 4 like cannibalistic Robins. But it was kind of an epic reveal at the end of issue number 2, and so we're going to get a closer up view introduction. Let's say that we're going to get a better introduction to each of these Batman, Bat People, Bats, whatever. They're each getting a one-off written by somebody different and drawn by somebody different, and it's I've told you before, I really like alternate versions of any character, just because it's really interesting to see different takes on abilities and different ways that these characters can influence the world around them, and then how that is a reflection of our society and our culture. So that being said, I like it even more when it's a character I already read. And that character being Batman is probably one of the coolest things I've ever heard. When I go to cons, which I'm going to Salt Lake Comic Con in a couple of days, when I go to cons, I actively seek out alternate versions of characters like Batman and so on and so forth. Like the Amalgam Universe, I love all those. Anyway, so these 7 Batman, let's go down the list. I'm going to read this off the list, so pardon me for not looking you in the eye. We've got the Drowned, is the only female of all of these Batmen, Bat People. Yeah. Her one-off is coming October 18th. Writer is Dan Abnett. Artist is Philip Tan. And so all of these Batmen are also a cross with another superhero, and still they're somehow bad, which is very interesting. I guess they're not all superhero crossover. We'll get to that. Anyway, so the Drowned is A, female, B, a cross between Batman and Aquaman, and C, like kind of steampunk. So whatever world she comes from in the dark multiverse is a kind of steampunky world. So that's really interesting. That's like 3 different versions of Batman all rolled up into one. So I mean, I'm gonna get all these one-offs. These are I will be there with bells on. You can't stop me. So the next one, this is the one exception to that whole cross with other superheroes thing. The next one is Devastator. Devastator is a cross between Batman and Doomsday. Weird. So must be some sort of weird Kryptonian thing in the dark universe he comes from. I have no idea where that could even come from or go. So that one-off's going to surprise me really well. November 1st for Devastator. Writer is Frank Thierry and artist is Tony S. Daniel. I'm familiar with Tony S. Daniel's stuff. I really dig his work, so definitely check him out. The next one is The Murder Machine, which is a really interesting combination because it's Alfred, who then absorbed his version of Batman after he was resurrected kind of by Cyborg in that dark world. So Alfred dies, Bruce can't deal with it, takes his remains to Cyborg, cyborgizes Alfred, so he makes him into this machine. Alfred then kills everyone and absorbs Bruce, and now he's called the Murder Machine, and he looks like a Iron Batman. Interesting. I again don't know where they can go with that one. September 27th is the release for that one. We have once again writing Frank Thierry, and the artist is Riccardo Federici. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. Somebody correct me, please. September 22nd or September 27th, and the next one is The Merciless, which is of the more humanoid ones. He's the largest version of these Batmans, whatever. And he's a cross between Batman and Wonder Woman, which you can kind of tell because he's got the freaking Wonder Woman W on his chest, and I don't that's weird. That's interesting. All of these, I guess, are Scott Snyder. the creative team behind all of this. I forget who's on top, but I'm telling you who the artists and writers and all that jazz are. But so all of these new versions of Batman are the creative team asking, well, what if Batman did this? Or what if this happened to Batman? And what if he was questioning this about himself? And then these are kind of the resulting villains that come from that. So I really wonder where they're going to go with the Merciless. October 25th is the one-off for the Merciless. Peter J. Tomasi is the writer. Tomasi's done some fantastic stuff too. And Francis Manapul is the artist. The next one is the Red Death. This one is another one that's super easy to figure out who he was combined with. It's the Flash. He's got lightning all over, and he's got like a bat symbol on his chest with lightning and a full mask. And I mean, they all kind of have full masks, except for the Drowned. But anyway, birdwalking. Red Death is happening on September 20th. Joshua Williamson is the writer, and Carmine D. and something Italian. I can't pronounce his last name. I am so sorry. Gian Domenico. The Carmine is the artist, and it's really worth it. Go check out Dark Knight's Metal issue number 2. See all of these guys, because there could be books written about these Batmen and like who their hero is, their nemesis, the good guy that they fight. That would be really interesting to see. So yeah, Red Death is September 20th. Next we have the Dawnbreaker, who is a mix between Green Lantern and Batman. October 4th is the launch. Sam Humphries and Ethan Van Sive is the artist. Not a big Lantern fan. I mean, there's some interesting stuff. It did coin a whole trope, women in refrigerators, but I don't know. This one holds the least amount of interest for me. The one that holds the most amount of interest for me, and anyone who has already read Batman Dark Knight's Metal number 2 knows, because he's the only one I haven't listed yet, it is The Batman Who Laughs. Now he's mixed with the Joker. I'm just going to break with the suspense right there. He's mixed with the Joker. There is a Joker book called The Man Who Laughs, so that kind of gives it away when you learn his name, the Batman Who Laughs. He's like this bondaged out, like almost Leatherface from Hell looking Batman, or Leatherface, Pinhead style. Like he's got all this bondage gear and this crazy mask and this rictus grin, just like Joker. And he has all 4 Robins. We can only assume that the 4 Robins that he has are the same 4 Robins that we know. We know at least one of the Robins he has is Damian, because they refer to each other as father and son, and at one point the Batman Who Laughs refers to him as Damian, and he says father and blah blah blah. So wow. Yeah. That's gonna be great. It blows my mind. I'm just so stuck up on this Dark Knight's Metal stuff. It's super exciting. But that is the end of the comic book section. And next we're going to move into books. Okay, so books this week. We have a book section, but it's really short. The only thing I really wanted to announce was I apparently missed that Patrick Rothfuss is going to be at Salt Lake Comic-Con this weekend. So I have 3 panels that I'm automatically going to. Regardless of whatever else is happening for those 3 hours, I'm going to be listening to Patrick Rothfuss be awesome. And potentially announce some news about Doors of Stone? Or not. We don't know, because it's in the editing phase, and that could take forever, because the writing phase took forever. Anyway, Roth is going to be at Salt Lake Comic-Con. The other thing that I also wanted to let all of you nerds out there in and across the entire nerddom know, finally have started reading the Song of Ice and Fire books. Game of Thrones is obviously the first book. It's really interesting comparing the first book to the first season of the show. Like Littlefinger's only supposed to be like 28 years old and things like that, and the actual ages of the kids, and how Joffrey is supposed to look and versus how he actually looks, and yeah, very, very interesting. I know I'm late to that game, but I know there's plenty more people out there who haven't read these books and should. So if you're waiting on Doors of Stone like I am, or you're waiting on season 8 of Game of Thrones, which we will get to the show in television, then definitely read the books. It's time. We have, if you start now, you will finish reading everything that's written by the time season 8 starts. I guarantee it. So that's it for books. We are moving right along. Next is video games. Not an actual video game update. I just didn't know where else to put this. It deals with Mortal Kombat, but it's the action figures. So kind of weird. Anyway, anyone who is really into Funko Pops, and like everyone likes those the little vinyl guys, with the really big heads. If you collect all of them, then you know what exists. If you're only into the things that appeal to your specific fandom, then you don't know this yet, because your specific fandom might not be Mortal Kombat. Mine is. So, knowing that, they're coming out with Pop Mortal Kombat figures. It's going to be Raiden, Katana, Liu Kang, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero are the regular, you can find them anywhere Pops. And then there's special edition Sub-Zero Scorpion together. And then there's a special edition Sub-Zero Scorpion. Scorpion is frozen and Sub-Zero's head is on fire. So, and they come boxed together, so it's kind of funny. It's really awesome. And then there's another special edition that's only available at GameStop, or at a Comic-Con if you know where to look, because all of those special editions find their way onto the vendor's floor. But the other GameStop special edition is Goro. He's a little bit bigger than the rest of them, just like he should be, and he looks badass. Check them out. When they're not supposed to be out until November, but you can be sure I am going to be scouring that vendor floor for Mortal Kombat Funko Pops, because that's the only thing I would ever buy from in those Pop figures. Just because I'm gonna have everything Mortal Kombat someday anyway, so might as well keep on going with it, right? Anyway, silly little thing. We're out of video games and we're moving into television. And in TV news, I know we're running through these. These ones are going to create the most discussion, and I'm gonna hand a couple of things off to you guys. Oh, television. We have finally some updates on Lock and Key. Lock and Key, for those of you that don't know, is a fantastic series of comic books written by Joe Hill, aka Stephen King's son, aka fantastic author. They tried to make a live-action series with it a few years ago, kind of fell through. They've shot a pilot that has not been anywhere on the internet, because believe me, I've looked. But we did get an announcement a little while ago that they are again attempting to make a live-action TV show with it. And now we have casting updates. We have Nathaniel Cordry, I'm sure, cast as Duncan Locke. And then we have Frances O'Connor cast as Nina. So those are the leads in the show. We don't have any other casting announcements. We don't have any other release dates just yet. We do know it is going to be on Hulu, so we're going to be able to binge watch the whole damn thing. Similarly to the way we watched The Tick. Oh no, that was Amazon. I'm full of crap. Hulu is a streaming service, and it's a beautiful thing, so we're going to be able to binge it, and let's just get it done and made so we can devour and discuss. Anyway, moving into Supernatural. Supernatural is coming back very, very soon with season 13. This entire season is going to deal with apocalypse. This apocalypse world, they call it. It's an alternate. They're working a multiverse. Supernatural apparently has their own multiverse, which is awesome, because that brings back the Archangel Michael, who is going to be played once again by Christian Keys. Just with the end of the last season, I thought with the end of season 11, I didn't know where the hell they were going to go. So they brought back Lucifer for season 12, and that was a whole ordeal, and the men of letters and blah blah blah. And then it ended with a Nephilim being born, and so we got to see a shadowy looking Nephilim thing that was just born, but it looked like a full-grown man, and yeah, it was really interesting. And then we got this alternate dimension where Bobby's still alive, so Bobby's back. All of these wonderful things, and then it ended, and we're going, but, come on! Angels wearing necklaces of baby ears? What the hell's going on in this apocalypse world? Freaking pillars made out of angel blades? Just all kinds of craziness going on. There's going to be lots of speculation. It is September. I think the new season doesn't start until next month, though, so I don't know. We'll see. Going to be great. Supernatural always is. They always keep you guessing. Moving into Preacher. So, season 2 of Preacher just ended. And we still are not in the territory of the comic books. I'm going to pass this one along because those Preacher comic books are fantastic. I'm beginning to lose hope with the series, man. It's too slow. Garth Ennis did not write this fantastic book for us to just drag our feet to get to the actual telling of it. So I don't know if I'm going to return for season 3. I'm not even sure they got signed on for season 3, so maybe this was only supposed to be a prequel to the comic, and then we just have this awesome comic book to read as the actual story. I really would like to see the actual comic book storyline happen on the screen, but it's not really going to happen because it's like FX, I think it's on, or maybe it's AMC as well. One of the two. Either way, it's not like HBO or Showtime, where they could tell the actual story, but they can tell something close to it. I mean, they get away with a lot of stuff on Walking Dead and American Horror Story and all of these things. So I don't know if I'm going to watch season 3. What do you guys think? Are you going to come back for season 3? Do you still hold out that they are going to actually tell the story from the books? And then we're into our last piece of news for television. Game of Thrones, the creators of Game of Thrones, D.B. Weiss and blah blah blah, just announced that they're going to be filming multiple endings. Quoi? So apparently only the creative team and George R.R. Martin will officially know how it's going to end until it airs next year. And each episode of Season 8, speaking of filming Season 8, each episode of Season 8 is going to be feature length. So it's not going to be just an hour. It's going to be 90 plus minutes of Game of Thrones every week. Yes. That's awesome. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to end, and I really, really I'm kind of grumpy about them filming multiple endings just because I wanted that to leak so I could just be, all right, I know how it ends, I'm done, I'll watch it, but all of the stress has been relieved. But no, they're just going to amp up that stress level, aren't they? So yeah, Game of Thrones Season 8's still a year away, and everybody's sad about it, but we're getting there. That's it for television, guys. We are moving into our final section of this week's episode, and that is movies. Movie news. We're going to start with Hellboy because it's a really minor update. We've all seen those pictures of David Harbour that they've released so far. Looks fantastic. I really feel like it looks more like a horror movie, which kind of goes along with this bit of news. They have announced that it is going to be more of a horror movie than it is an origin story of Hellboy. So that's a really interesting play. Hellboy is dark. The comic books are very dark. I am really interested to see a superhero movie done as a horror movie as well. Could be very interesting. They could be hyping it up a little bit, I feel like is the more likely scenario, and it's not going to be all that scary, but who knows? They could pull it off. yeah, anyway. Next we have Nightwing. And Nightwing, we know it's going to happen now. For sure we know it's going to happen. Well, as sure as we possibly could know. Because we have an announcement of a director. Chris McKay, who also did the Lego Batman movie, has just been announced as the director. We don't have any casting announcements yet, other than McKay saying, we're going to make the most badass Nightwing movie we possibly can. His words, not mine. He's the badass anyway. So he's going to put his entire cast, especially whoever they cast as Nightwing, through what he calls a boot camp of a training session, so that they can all be in incredible shape and do all of the things. And the thing that has me super excited, aside from, I mean, when the director's excited about a thing, then it's hard to not get excited about the thing. But the thing that has me the most excited, aside from his enthusiasm, is he's announced that he's going to go more practical and physical stunts than any CGI, which is one of the primary things that made Christopher Nolan's Batman one of the best superhero movies ever. Superhero trilogies. All three of those movies, standing alone, are fantastic superhero movies. Obviously, the best of the three is The Dark Knight, but still, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises are all three, in and of themselves, fantastic movies. And one of the things that made them that way is Christopher Nolan's reluctance to use any CGI. So, if Chris McKay can continue that feel and can translate that into what exists now as the DC Extended Universe, then he might do a lot of good for what we know of as this land of mediocrity in the DCEU. But yeah, I'm going to pass that one off to you guys too. Is this the right choice? Is the guy who did Lego Batman the guy to do Nightwing? Is that the right choice to direct? If that's the case, is he also doing it right by not relying on CGI and trying to use as many practical effects as possible and live action stuntmen? That's for you guys. Have at it in the comments section. So real quick, a thing on James Bond. 2 years ago, Barbara Broccoli, which unfortunate for your last name, Babs. Barbara Broccoli, the producer who has done the last few movies, I think she even started producing before the Daniel Craig, James Bonds. Anyway, 2 years ago, she said that in the future, James Bond could be a woman. I don't know that a lot of the fans heard that, because I just read that and saw that the statement was quoted from 2 years ago. I feel like a character named James is difficult to be a girl. So that's not the announcement. The announcement is she just recently, just a few days ago, said that she is open to the idea or actively seeking, can't remember exactly the quote, female director. Now, is that, I'm going to leave, this is another one for the comment section. If she is specifically looking for a female director, does that mean she's going to overlook some potential fantastic talent in a male director? Or is it time that we had a full and proper Bond movie directed by a woman? The other thing is, there are rumors that Daniel Craig will be back for a 5th James Bond. If that's the case, I'm totally on board. Unless I would really be down to see Idris Elba as Bond. I feel like that would be he's a really good actor. In spite of what happened with The Dark Tower, Idris Elba is a fantastic actor. So put that guy in as Bond, because Daniel Craig, also a fantastic actor, and we saw what he did with that. He's a very physical actor, and Idris Elba can pull off that physicality too, but I feel like Elba's acting ability is slightly superior to Craig's. So If either of those two men are on board as Bond for Bond number 5, then for Bond number 5 for the next Bond, it'll be Craig's 5th, but not Idris Elba's. Anyway, either of those two gentlemen plays James Bond in the next movie, I'm on board immediately. Minor update for the Spawn reboot. Producer Jason Blum has announced that it is going to be a low-budget movie. So low budget probably means their budget's going to resemble the original Spawn movie. But I mean, modern technology being what it is, and things and stuff, and you don't need a giant budget in order to pull off a great action movie. So I don't know if that's really an announcement or not, but it's an interesting thing going forward. According to Josh Boone, director of New Mutants, they have finished primary principal photography for New Mutants, which means we are going into editing and post. And so we're not that far out from the New Mutants movie. I'm pretty stoked. We'll talk about it in a different video because we are running out of time. Terminator news. Not only do we have the rumor that Arnold is going to be in the next Terminator, or that there's going to be a next Terminator, now it kind of seems official that there's going to be a next Terminator because James Cameron and Tim Miller were recently talking to a magazine talking about a Terminator project that they were working on together. Potentially, this is going to be the Terminator movie that Cameron was talking about a little while ago, where he said he's going to reboot and conclude once and for all the Terminator franchise. Is that going to be a single movie? Is it going to be another freaking trilogy? Is it going to continue the story from Genesis? We don't know yet. We just know what's happening. So we're going with that. And then finally, no, not finally. I got two more. One, Wonder Woman. They just brought on David Callahan from Expendables to help Patty Jenkins, the original writer, director of the first Wonder Woman. He's going to help her write, and then she's still going to direct Wonder Woman 2, which, you know, it's all still speculation where that's going to happen. Is it going to be the Cold War? Is it going to be World War II? Where are they going with the following story? Is it going to be modern? Nobody knows. But David Callahan is going to help her write it. Now, I am waiting to see the feminist backlash of, well, why did they have to bring in a man to help her write it? She did fine on her own for the first one, didn't she? I don't know that this would be really him helping her out. This might be her bringing him along a little bit. Did you see those Expendables movies? I mean, lots of action and lots of interesting stuff, but it's real shallow, superficial, like shiny, but that's about it. There's not much in story, so maybe they weren't pleased with her action scenes, and so they brought him in to spruce up the action scenes. That would make the most sense to me, but from where I'm standing, Wonder Woman is a far superior movie to any of those Expendables flicks, so I don't know why they did this. But yeah, I mean, if you are a feminist and you feel like this is Hollywood taking power away from a woman again, then let us hear it in those comments down there. I really feel like this was her going, "Hey Dave, come on, let me show you how to write. Let me show you how we do it in the big leagues." And then final update for this week's Weekend Nerdom. Thank you so much for watching all the way down to the end. Final update, like I said last week, we apparently cannot do an episode without talking Star Wars. I was hoping that we were going to get the director from episode 8, Ryan, what's his name? I can't think of his last name. Anyway, I was hoping we were going to get him to continue, Brian, I'm sorry, not Ryan, Brian. Anyway, I still can't think of his last name, so it doesn't matter. I was hoping he was going to come on and just continue telling the story, and Abrams was going to maintain his status as producer. Does not appear to be the case. Kathleen, again, I'm horrible apparently with last names if I haven't written them down in a week. Lucasfilms has decided to bring Abrams back in as director, which also means Abrams is going to be on the writing team as well. This presents a very interesting scenario, because everyone who had any sort of issue with The Force Awakens primarily had the issue with the fact that Abrams played all of the same notes in The Force Awakens. It's basically all of the Holy Trilogy. So everything that happened in those three movies had some sort of echo in The Force Awakens. And so now everyone who's down on this new revitalizing of the series is down because they think they're just going to be rehashing all of the beats from those three movies again and again and again and again. And again and again. I don't think that's where we're going. To me, they played those beats so that we could be reminded of why we love Star Wars. So we could see all of these things. Oh yeah, I remember that's like when this happened, and that BB-8, he's kind of like R2-D2, and they're saving the universe, and then there's Han Solo. So we got all of those familiarities out of the way. Force Awakens was to kind of clear our minds, do a little Jedi mind trick, that the prequel trilogy didn't really exist. Like, obviously it exists, obviously it's still a thing, because it's canon. They kept that in the canon, but it's putting more distance between those three movies and refreshing us on the older three, the Holy Trilogy of movies. So it's setting up for this new universe. So in the next movie, Last Jedi, Episode 8, we're going to get into completely new ground instead of kind of new ground with really awesome updated special effects. This is going to be 100% new ground with The Last Jedi. So that... Johnson, that's his last name. Anyway, so that's what they're doing with Last Jedi. That's what Rian Johnson's doing with Last Jedi. Now, it would have made sense to me to continue that with the same director into Episode 9 if you're not going with an all-new director, which is what apparently they were going to do up until recently. Episode 9 is now going to be directed by the same director who did Episode 7. So, that is Abrams. Abrams is one of the primary, it seems, creative forces behind this new trilogy. So he's got even more creative control being director. That gives him the platform to finalize this trilogy, potentially finalize the Skywalker saga. These 9 movies all have something to do with a Skywalker. So potentially Abrams can put a close to this Skywalker saga in a completely original way and not totally just rehash everything we already know about Star Wars. Just tell us this brand new story about Luke and whether or not Rey is his damn daughter, which we'll probably find out in the next movie, I know. But I just, there's a lot of people kind of crapping all over this, and I don't think that's warranted. I feel like the better way to look at this is now they can finally tell us this wonderful story that they've been leading up to. Now they can finally close this epic saga that we've got since the freaking 70s. And that's a long time to be telling one story. So I have high hopes. I definitely expect Abrams to do well. This is another one we're going to hand over to you guys for the comments section. Are you stoked? Are you stoked like I am that Abrams is coming back to direct the final installment of the Skywalker saga? It's definitely not going to be the last Star Wars movie, but they are saying potentially. I mean, this is rumor. This is unsubstantiated rumor, but decent sources have said that it is going to be the final Skywalker Star Wars movie. So, are you guys as stoked about that as I am? I would love to hear your comments about that down below in that comment section. And that, my friends, all of you beautiful, beautiful nerds out there, is the end of this week's Week in Nerddom. We covered a lot of ground. There's a lot of stuff to discuss. Join that conversation. Hit up that website, generallynerdy.net. If you are so inclined, find me over on Patreon, patreon.com/generallynerdy, and support what I'm trying to do here. If you are new to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. If you like these videos, hit the like button. And before we go, I do need to remind you guys of a couple of things. One, Salt Lake Comic Con is going to be a blast this year. And two, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.